So I'm Leve Barczy from Digital Asset, and today I'm most excited to talk to you about the Canton network pilot. We believe this is a historic event where we had multiple sovereign blockchains being able to interoperate with one another without the use of bridges or APIs or anything like that. It truly happened in a multilateral way. Okay, so that's what I'll talk to you about mostly. But before that, I want to give you a little bit of an update on the underlying technology, which is the Canton network. So today, this is just a snapshot of the different assets which are being captured on the Canton network today. Okay, so these are really in production. They're not pilots or anything like that. This is real dollar values captured on the network. So starting from the left, you can see that we have about $5 billion worth of issuances actively being issued and traded on the network. This is, in fact, kind of a small amount when you look at all of capital markets in total. But still, in terms of blockchains, this is a good number. This is quite a large number. We also have 75% of the total US syndicated loan market. So these are broadly syndicated loans, and 75% of them, which comprises about $900 billion in outstanding notional, captured and running on the network. And by running on, I mean it's the primary book of record for those assets. In addition to that, we have $1.5 trillion worth of repos being transacted every month. This is expected to go up. And in terms of repos, 1.5 trillion is actually not very much if you know about repos. But it's still a material chunk of all of the US Treasury repos which are being transacted. And I find this number interesting along with the others because if you kind of look at all of the value which is being captured on public blockchains, okay, so non-permissioned public blockchains, we find that Canton actually has 8 times more value captured than in all of the available public blockchains today. And keep this 8x number in mind because it'll come up a little bit later. But it kind of tells you that, of course, what's going on public blockchains will increase, but you know where the money is in traditional finance and traditional assets, and that's where digital assets focus has been. So that's the foundational network where we built the pilot that I'm about to talk to you about. Kind of the features that allowed us to build the pilot and to have these numbers is that we really take seriously the sovereignty of each blockchain. Okay, so that means the data model, the privacy associated with each use case, and the ability to interoperate between those blockchains is granted to us by the Canton network. Okay, so now getting into the pilot, we invited 45 companies, which is comprised of, and I always get this wrong, 15 asset managers, 13 sell-side institutions, 4 global custodians, and 4 financial market infrastructures. So think exchanges and the like, to participate in this pilot. So the cool thing about this pilot was that it's actually 22 separate blockchains that were interoperating with one another, comprising all aspects of the capital markets supply chain. We selected some of the applications that are already in production. We added a couple of new ones to prove out the concept. But as a result, as I said, you have this interoperable network that you can see a visualization of where workflows will span the entire sort of the entire workflow from buy side, sell side, financial market infrastructure, custodianships, transfer agency, and the like. And the neat thing is that there's no bridges between them, there's no APIs. All of this is done thanks to the composability aspects of the Canton network. I'll get back to this diagram in a little bit later, but keep in mind that the upshot of this is that 22 sovereign blockchains compose together in one global network of networks. So one question I always ask is, how come this type of interoperability was not available, or this has not been done on public blockchains? As you saw the ADAX number, how come we haven't seen sort of a migration of traditional assets to public blockchains? And I think kind of the short answer to this is privacy. The slightly longer answer to this is the sovereignty of the various applications. So this means the privacy of each node that's on the network. This means the ability to set up controls that abide by your local regulation. It involves things like scalability. So when my application is not slowed down because somebody over there is running CryptoKitties. So that's what we mean by sovereignty. And this is sort of a well-known problem within public blockchains. And there is, especially in the layer 1s. On the layer 2s, we believe that sort of none of the solutions today adequately kind of work around this problem, or they all attempt to work around it rather than solve it. There's a couple of problems with channels in general. One, you don't have any privacy within the channel. You have to have multiple channels because the membership of each channel is usually set. So you need multiple ones if you have different sort of visibilities. And finally, you lose the cool aspect of blockchain, which is that you no longer get that composability across those blockchains. Won't go over too much, and this is an eye test. Rough. Okay, so I think you'll all get this on a handout later. So the main upshot is that private blockchains aren't an answer to this either. We feel they approach the problem kind of from the other direction, which is that you kind of want to work with the existing sovereign applications, and you want to create multi-party workflows within them. But what you end up with is islands. You end up with islands that don't really work well together. You end up with solutions that solve one problem, but they don't really represent the entire value chain in capital markets. So you might have a really cool solution for issuance, but what about for trading? What about for collateral management? What about for using your asset in a different way to meet your collateral obligations? So, and we don't believe that sort of bespoke bridges and APIs are necessarily a good answer either. They will work in specific instances, but very often you lose the composability, and you don't get to sort of experiment by connecting different applications together. You have to build a bespoke bridge, a bespoke set of APIs for every bilateral interaction. And what we want is multilateral interactions that you can sort of put together in ways that the original application writers hadn't even intended. Okay, so going back to the pilot, okay, more eye test. These are some of the applications that we included within the pilot. So this is sort of the broad categories of the 22 sovereign blockchains. They all, like I said, some of these applications were drawn from our existing client base on the sell side, as well as the new buy side participants that came into the picture, including for things like fund registration and fund issuance and the creation and redemption cycle. Now, what this really demonstrates is that to do anything meaningful in capital markets, you can't just have one application. You need the entire value chain. And sort of, for example, if you receive a margin call as an investor, you're not just going to be interacting with the collateral system of your prime broker. You'll have to potentially transform your assets into cash with a repo, or you'll have to start in the creation of a new issuance, for example. So in order to meet one margin call in the couple of hours that you have to go out in all aspects of the market. And so that's what we tried to model. We modeled that entire value chain. And once again, there's no settlement risk in this flow. What that means is that you can instantaneously encumber collateral. You can, the cash is going to arrive exactly at the same time as the security arrives on the other side. And the same thing for the repos. The repo immediately locks the collateral when the cash arrives. And so just imagine what this means for your capital requirements if you have zero settlement risk. If you have zero settlement risk, that means you reduce your credit risk. If you reduce your credit risk, you reduce your capital requirements. And I think that's where the real value of sort of this composability comes. Okay, so going back to the previous slide, this is what I want to get across to you again, that every single sort of color schema in here represents a sovereign blockchain, okay? It has its own rules, it has its own governance, it has its own participants within it, and they overlap each other at the level of each node. So you can see this person in here is a member of this blockchain and that blockchain, but not a member of that blockchain. So what we try to do is, once again, each real use case will course through the entire system. It's not enough to just have sort of these bilateral connections. So when we ran the pilot, we had really great participation, like I said, from the 45 companies that were present. They took 33 participant nodes, and in the end, we stopped counting at about 350 transactions, but they actually kept going. All right. Okay, so this is not only an eye test. This is a technical architecture slide. So this is the thing you need to ask me about at dinner. But this is how the thing works. In fact, it's very close to how the internet is architected for openness. I like to begin all of my architecture presentations in the middle. The most important aspects where all of the business value happens is in these separate blockchains that comprise the applications of this network of networks. Nodes connect to those separate blockchains. So one node might connect to 2 or 3 or 5, and different sets. They'll connect to different sets of things. So if you think about it, a bank might connect to a cash registry. A repo dealer will connect to that cash registry, but they will also connect to an asset registry. So the analog here is that nodes function like internet browsers. So you can use your node to connect to any of the applications in your workflow. And the blockchains work like applications on the internet. So think, you've got NewYorkTimes.com, JPMChase.com, and so forth. They're all separate sovereign applications. And really what the internet does, which is this last layer on the bottom here, is it allows the interconnectivity between them. It allows you to register a new application with a URL. It allows you to some semblance of governance. And that's what the Canton network does. All right, time check. Oh, perfect. Excellent. So key takeaways, I won't go through all of them. Once again, takeaway number one is that we think the real value of blockchain is going to come in the interconnectedness of the various applications that are underneath it. And that interconnectedness is not going to happen bilaterally, it's going to happen multilaterally. So that's it. I think you will all get the slide deck afterwards. So here's some quotes about the pilot itself. And lastly, if you want to find out more, there's a QR code. So thank you very much.